Hello and welcome back, it's Laura from Crafty Not Shifty, and today I'm sharing with you my 10 cards made using the Love from Lizi December card kit. So for this first one, it's really quick and easy. I've cut down one of the vellum pieces and I've just gone ahead and run that through my sticker machine, and this applies a really thin layer of adhesive all over the back of that vellum piece, which makes it really easy to stick that down without having to worry about where you place the glue. Because if you do just go ahead and place this down with regular glue tape or wet glue, you will see where that glue is placed underneath that vellum unless you strategically hide it underneath the patterned pieces and the foiled pieces. So I prefer to use my sticker machine, and you'll see me use that quite a lot throughout this video. I've also gone ahead and taken one of the swirly pattern stickers from the kit, and I've just used that to kind of hide that edge at the top and the bottom of the card, as this vellum piece is slightly smaller than my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 sized note base. So all of the cards that I'm making today will be that size, and I've made all of my card bases just by cutting my cardstock from the kit in half and then folding it in half. So here I have one of the sentiments from the kit, and I've just used my anti-static powder tool as I'm going to be doing some heat embossing, and I've got some silver ink here that I've just gone ahead and stamped the sentiment down, and then I'll apply some clear embossing powder over the top, and that will just help to make sure that pigment ink dries really well on top of the vellum. Because that vellum is more of kind of a slick surface, the pigment ink would take a really long time to dry, and I didn't want to risk that smudging, so I just went ahead and added some clear embossing powder and then brushed off any excess with a dry fluffy paintbrush, and then used my heat tool to heat set it. And I'm bringing it to the vellum and then kind of moving it away so I'm not overheating it and risking that warping. And that's it for card one, really quick and easy, and that sentiment reads, "You are so loved." It's a little bit difficult to read in the picture there, so sorry about that, but it is stamped perfectly in real life. I think it was just the glare from the silver pigment ink. Okay, so I've got one of my stitched rectangle dies here. So one of the great things about the fact that Lizi's kits now include standard US letter size cardstock is that any of your dies that you may have, kind of your nesting shape dies, particularly if they're made in America or in Canada, they will be perfectly sized to fit on the front of your cards now, so you don't have to just measure your cardstock and cut it by hand. You can actually go ahead and use your dies. Okay, so I have stamped a whole bunch of the images from the stamp set, and I went ahead and coloured those off camera. I didn't want to kind of waste your time showing my colouring of those, but I stamped them all out and coloured them and then cut them out and created this little scene of the wheelbarrow full of roses. And then I've got one of the other sentiments here, and I've just lined that up inside my MISTI. I did go ahead and cut my sentiment, as long as you're careful whenever you're cutting a stamp and you cut in between the kind of stamped sections, so the raised up sections that you're going to apply the ink to. It doesn't harm your stamp at all, and you can always just place it back together if you want to stamp it in the original design. So I've stamped up in the top right hand corner there, "Always in my heart," and then I'm just using my ATG tape runner to apply some adhesive on the back of that cart with all the roses inside. I then decided just to add this little flourish. I felt like something was missing from this card, so I went ahead and added that flourish, and that's it for this card. Okay, so on to the next one. I wanted to use this really large sticker. It does kind of hang off the edge just a little bit, but I just went ahead and applied some anti-static powder tool onto either side that stick over the edge after I was finished, and then that way it's not sticky anymore. And yeah, I'm fine with that. I think it's okay that it's slightly bigger. I think it kind of adds to the design. So rather than sticking this flat down to my card, I covered the whole back of the sticker with 3D foam tape. And then I'm going to use the lines on my grid mat to help me centre this up and place it in the bottom section of this patterned piece. This particular patterned piece I've cut down to be ever so slightly smaller than my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note base, and I'm just going to add some ribbon around the top. So this is a little bit of a cheat, it's something that I quite like to do. Now I don't know why I didn't apply adhesive to the back of the ribbon first. I don't really know why I chose to do it this way, but there you go. I decided to line this up with the grid mat on the back and then just press it in the ribbon into some adhesive onto the back of the card, and then that way I knew it would be perfectly straight across the front. I then took an extra piece of ribbon and tied a bow. And this is the part that's my little cheat. So rather than having to wrap the ribbon around the card and then tie a nice bow at the front, I prefer to add the ribbon first, tie my bow, and then glue the ribbon on top. For me, I just find that that's a little bit easier. I don't know, I kind of struggle with tying a ribbon. I don't know, maybe that's just me. So when I applied my glue there, that was the multi-medium and the matte finish. I obviously had some kind of air bubble in my glue bottle, so I got a big splodge of glue there, but I just used a baby wipe to clean some of that up, and then used a clip to hold that ribbon in place while it dries. So now I've got a couple of the roses and the cranberry from in the kit, and I'm just using some wire scissors to snip off the wire at the back, and then I'm going to use some more of my multi-medium and the matte finish to stick those down. My cranberry just ran away, so I'll apply a little bit more glue and then just hold those in place and set that to one side for it to dry. And then once that was all dry, I applied some adhesive onto my red card base. So I'm using my ATG tape runner for this, and that is probably one of my preferred go-to kind of tape runners for when I'm making 10 cards. It's just really quick and easy because there's no release paper to peel away, but I am actually looking for something smaller, more of a handheld tape runner. So if you guys have got any suggestions of your favourites, then please do let me know in the comments below, because I'm definitely on the lookout for a smaller handheld version. I love my ATG tape runner, but I think it's nice to have options of a smaller version as well. Okay, so here I've got a piece of the pearlized cardstock and also a grey card base, and I'm using the same circle die. I believe this circle die came from Mama Elephant, and I've just cut out, sorry if you can hear my dog in the background, I've just cut out the circle slightly off the edge of both of those pieces in the same place, and I'm applying some tape. So this is a different tape, this one I will have to peel off the backing, but I wanted to make sure I had a really strong tape here because I'm going to be making a shaker card. So for anyone who watches Jennifer Maguire, and if you don't, then you should go find her channel and watch her, but for anyone who doesn't, she made some incredible shaker cards quite a while back now, and this particular card design is a complete copy, or rather a case, copy and share everything. It's a case of one of her designs, so that's totally allowed within the card making world. I think it's definitely encouraged to use each other as inspiration, as long as credit's given where it's due, and this card was entirely inspired by Miss Jennifer Maguire and is very similar to the design that she put together. So after I filled up the inside of that netting or that tulle with the sequins, I was kind of just holding it in place to figure out where I needed to cut it, and then once that's cut, I applied another layer of my adhesive tape and then peeled off the backings here and just pressed that down. So what's nice about this particular style of shaker, and you could do this with acetate as well, or maybe like a fuse like sleeve pocket, is that it actually hangs off the edge of the card base and you can see straight through because of, obviously it's netting on both sides, so it creates like a little window shaker, and it's just a different material to use, so I really like this. So I'm just covering up the front of that card now with this pearlized cardstock, and then that hides any of the extra tulle on the front of that card base. So you'll see I've got this nice little shaker window now, and then at the back again it's all just perfectly covered up by that card base, so you can just see that tulle. So I've gone ahead and taken the scrap from the window that I cut from the card base and cut out this intricate kind of rose design. This is so beautiful, I really love this die and I'll definitely be using it over and over again. But it got a little bit lost once I placed it on top of the window there, so I decided to back it onto a piece of the metallic. This is again just that scrap that I'd cut out the window. I decided to glue it on there and then take my scissors and just cut around the edges, and that way it just helped it kind of pop on the front of this card so it didn't get lost in the design. I'm really pleased with how that turned out actually. So I went ahead and put some foam tape on the back, some foam squares, peeled off the backing and placed that down. And then because it does hang over the window, I just need a little piece of cardstock on the inside to kind of hide up that mess. So again, I'm just using a little scrap from where we cut that window. So this card needed just a little something extra, so I went ahead and added one of those thin peel-offs on the left hand side. And then I stamped another one of the sentiments from the kit, and this time I'm just using some white heat embossing. This particular embossing powder isn't the one that came in the kit. This is a detail embossing powder, which in my opinion works better for sentiments. The other embossing powder I will use later on in the video, but because that's got like a puffy texture to it, it would kind of get lost if I'd use that for the sentiment. Okay, so for this particular card, I actually managed to turn my camera off whilst I was making this card, so I'll quickly run you through what I did. I used a cream card base and some pearlized cardstock. I coloured in a section of that cardstock with an alcohol marker and outlined that with a peel off, and then used the tool and an oval die to create some interest in the background. Used a sticker on top of that, and then outlined one side with some of the ribbon from the kit. So I'm really sorry about that, but on to the next card. So for this one, again, I'm going to be using one of the vellum pieces. I really liked the vellum that was included in this kit, so I used it an awful lot. This particular piece was slightly bigger than my 4 1/4 and 5 1/2 note base, so I'm just trimming down those sides until they are 5 1/2, and then the other dimension was actually the right size, so I just needed to trim off, I think it was about 1/2 inch in total from this piece. And then again, I just ran that through my sticker machine. You don't need one of these sticker machines to use the vellum, I just find it easier to hide my adhesive that way. Once I had that stuck down, I had a look at my sticker sheet and I found a sticker that I thought worked well, and this particular one says, "If you can be anything, then be kind," which I think is just really nice, and that's one of the sentiments that's echoed in the stamp set as well. So to finish this off, I had a couple of the pearls from the kit, and I'm just using my craft knife to help me position those, to pick them up and place them down exactly where I want them across the card, and I just love the shine from these quick and easy cards using the vellum pieces. Okay, so for this one, I loved this rose piece and I really wanted to bring it into a card, and I spent such a long time trying to figure out how to use it because it was so beautiful. I didn't want to cover it up, but it's also quite a busy pattern, but I'm really pleased with how this came out. I think it's actually probably my favourite from everything that I put together. So I wanted to use this vellum piece, but it kind of got lost on that background, so I decided to stick it onto some cream cardstock first to give a white background to help it stand out a little bit more. And you'll see here that once I've got that stuck down, I just went ahead and cut around the window section and also the roses, and that just helps them pop off that card base a little bit more than they would if I'd have stuck it down directly on top. So I wanted to add one of these little calendar pieces. I think these are really cute. I think I'm going to keep this card. I don't think I'm actually going to send it to anyone. I think I'm going to keep it on my desk for myself because I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. So I'm just laying everything down to see if I like the placement, and then I'm applying some anti-static powder tool to the back of this sticker because I want to pop it up with foam tape, and I want to make sure that any sections that don't have little teeny tiny foam squares on them don't accidentally get pressed down onto the cardstock and stick because of the stickiness of the sticker, and the anti-static powder tool just helps with that. So like a crazy person, I applied teeny tiny pieces of foam tape all over those little sort of swirls and flourishes on this sticker, but I think it was worth it in the end. It took a little while, but once I'd got all of those foam pieces on the back, I just went ahead and placed that down and then applied some tape onto the back of my vellum piece. Remember that vellum piece is now on a piece of cream cardstock, so I don't need to worry about where I place the adhesive because you can't see through that cream cardstock, so you can place it anywhere. And then I applied a lot of adhesive onto the back of this little calendar piece as well and just placed that down. And then to finish this off, I thought I'd add one more of the stickers, just this little tiny sticker on the right hand side there. And that's it for this project. Okay, so on to the next one. Again, I had an epic fail with my camera. I'm really sorry about that in this video. But again, I've just took a strip of cardstock and a couple of stickers. I've placed the cardstock down onto the metallic card base and used a couple of those different stickers, and then I'm just going to go ahead and finish off with my Nuvo drops. So I'm really sorry, I don't know why I was struggling so much with my camera this month. I have had a bit of a break from filming, so I don't know, maybe I just forgot how to use it. I forgot the difference between turning the camera on and turning the camera off, so I have some really great footage of cards drying, but no footage of me making the cards, which isn't much use to anyone, but I hope you'll forgive me. Okay, so for the last card, I've got this patterned paper here that I've cut down to be slightly smaller than the card base, and I'm just using an oval die to cut out a small window, kind of offset onto the left-hand side, and then I went ahead and applied tape all over a length of the ribbon. I checked before I did this to work out that I had enough ribbon left for this particular design that I wanted to use. So I essentially turned this ribbon into like a self-adhesive ribbon, and then I used the lines on my grid mat to line up exactly where I was going to place these pieces of ribbon, and snipped off the ends, and I just did this as 2 horizontal pieces across the bottom and then 2 vertical pieces along the right hand side. This particular layout and design, I actually I was struggling for ideas a little bit, so I did go ahead and do a Google search for card sketches, which is definitely something I'd recommend if you're ever struggling with a layout idea, or you just want a bit of inspiration. You can look up some sketch ideas for different layouts, and you can kind of make them work with any kind of patterned pieces that you have, any stamp sets that you have, because they're just general ideas of placement of different colours and panels that you can use on your card. So that was what I did for this one. Once I've got those stuck down, I went ahead and laid this on top of my patterned piece, and I just wanted to on top of my card base, and I just wanted to trace where that window was because I wanted to add some detail into that window background. So I just went ahead and used a pencil to trace that, and then I used some Versamark and this rose to go ahead and stamp the rose repeatedly along the inside. So I've actually used this stamping not for heat embossing, but just for some tone-on-tone kind of watermark detail in the background, and you'll see that in the final pictures of the card. It just applies like a really subtle version of the stamping. So for these roses here, and again I stamped these from the stamp set and coloured those off screen, and I've just used a Versamark pen to add some detail around the edges so I can pour on some of this embossing powder and add some snow, and then I'm just heat setting each of those using my heat gun. And this particular embossing powder, it kind of puffs up like snow. I did find that I think it has a bit more of a smell to it than normal embossing powder, and I think that's just whatever's in it that helps it kind of puff up to give that snow texture. So I would just recommend making sure you've got the windows open whenever you use it, but it does apply some really nice interest to the images. So I'm just adding some adhesive onto the back of these roses. And I stuck this one down flat at first, and then used some foam dots on the others, and then decided I didn't quite like that placement, so I went ahead and carefully peeled this one up and just rearranged those and stuck them down again. So I wanted to add a sentiment across that window, and I decided to use a piece of black cardstock, and I stamped with Versamark ink after using my anti-static powder tool, and I went with the sentiment "You are so loved," and used some more of my white detail embossing powder and just heat set that, and then trimmed that into a really tiny strip, and then I used that to kind of place it across the window. So I had to go ahead and peel up the cardstock just a little bit to get that to fit underneath the edges, but that was fine. I just used my craft knife and just carefully kind of picked away at the edges until I could just slip this black piece inside, and I did that on both sides and then pressed that down firmly, and the adhesive was strong enough to hold both of those in place. Okay, so I think I said that was my last card, but I totally lied. I can't count. That was card number 9. This is my last card. This is card 10. So I've got a section of vellum again that I've actually trimmed this from a piece that had this kind of rose pattern and then also has a frame. I decided to stick this onto a white piece, and then I've got this wooden frame here that I'm just going to go ahead and trace, and I'm actually going to cut up one of the stickers to make it fit inside this frame. It's kind of somewhat mixed media, I guess. In that I've kind of pieced this together to make it fit inside, and I was just checking that I thought I could do that these would actually fit, and yeah, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. So there was a lot of kind of cutting off the excess around making sure that I had all of those words together, and then I trimmed off any of the excess and I just used that to fill in the blanks. So the pattern kind of doesn't match necessarily, there's a piece of the rose at the top and then another piece here, and then I used some thin strips to make up the section in the background here, which is why I kind of said it's somewhat mixed media, but yeah, I'm really pleased with how that turned out. So I've got a piece of this patterned paper that I really liked this kind of greenish tones to this wood panel, and I thought it worked really well with the green background, so I cut that to be slightly smaller than the card base and then place that down, and then I'm just going to go ahead and trim out this vellum piece that I've applied to the white cardstock. And again, that's just to help it pop against that background just a little bit more, because it kind of got lost if I just stuck that directly on top of the wood panel piece. So once I had that trimmed out, I then went ahead and applied some adhesive to the back of my other vellum piece here. So this is the silver frame, and I'm just laying out exactly where I want everything to go, and then I can go ahead and stick it all together. So to help that wooden frame tie in with the colours that I've used in this piece, I decided to use another alcohol marker. This is just one of my Spectrum Noir markers, and it's a green colour, and I just went ahead and coloured directly over the wood and just changed the colour up a little bit so it's got that green tinge to it to help it match. And I coloured along the front and then just ran the pen along the inside as well, just to kind of get rid of any of that wood colouring along that inside edge where I'd have it stuck down to my sticker piece. So I used some glue, I applied that all along the back, and again, I was having trouble with air bubbles with everything today, so I had another one with this glue here, but that was fine. I just wiped off the excess and just applied glue right along the outside edge of that frame. You can see me squeezing pretty hard with this glue. I think I've almost run out, so I think I'm going to have to place another order again soon. So excuse my head getting in the way, but once I had that placed down, I just went ahead and cut that out. And so while that was drying, I ran everything through my sticker machine again, and I've got this frame and also that vellum piece, and then I'll peel those up and place that down on the front of my cardstock. If you are interested in this particular sticker machine, I know that the Love from Lizi shop does actually sell a few different sizes, so if you're not wanting to make the investment for such a large machine like this one that I have here, they also have smaller versions, and I'll have a link to the store below so you can check that out. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this piece here and then trim off those little corner pieces to make sure that none of the white cardstock's poking out the edges, and then I'll be able to stick that down just in the centre there. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow glue just to glue that in place. And you'll see here that I've also brought in some of these little like wheels. They're kind of like metal like buttons that match really well with the cart wheel stamp that's in the stamp set. And I was just deciding where I wanted those, and then I used some of my multimedia mat, which again, like everything else in my craft room, seems to be running low. I think I'm going to need to put some basics on my wish list for Christmas this year to kind of get my stash topped back up. So I'm using my fine tip applicator just to apply tiny bits of adhesive behind each of those cogs and then press those down in place, and I just left something heavy on top of those while they dry. So I brought in the thinner length of ribbon, and again I've gone ahead and applied adhesive on the back of this to turn it into like a self-adhesive ribbon, and I'm just laying strips either side of those roses. I felt like even with the piece of patterned paper behind them, they were kind of getting lost a little bit, so I wanted to do something to help draw your eye to that piece, and I thought that this was perfect. I could have used the peel-offs as well, but I felt like the red worked better with the colours that I had in this card, sorry. So I'm just trimming off the excess, and then because I've already stuck this down, I again had to kind of bring in my craft knife and just the edge of my scissors, and just carefully tuck the ribbon underneath those pieces just to hide those edges, and nobody would ever know that I didn't plan ahead and have this design pre-planned and do it properly in the first place and hide those edges as I was going. To make sure nothing comes apart, I'm just squirting a small amount of adhesive underneath where I've tucked those ribbon away. And that's it for my final card. Okay, so I'll just bring each of those cards back on screen so you can take one more look at them before we're finished with this video. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please do let me know by leaving a comment in the comments section below. If you've got any tips on handheld adhesive runners for me, then please do leave them in the comments section below. And you can also find more from me over on Crafty Not Shifty, or if you're watching this on my channel already, then I recommend you head over to the Love from Lizi channel, where they'll have more 10 card 1 kit videos from all the other designers on the team, and also some product releases from Lizi. So if you have a favourite card, then again, do let me know in the comments section below. I love to hear from you guys, and it has been a while since I've posted a video, so I've missed you all. So it would be great to hear from you and let me know what your thoughts are on this particular kit. I really enjoyed working with it, and I did miss last month's kit, so I'm hoping to share with you the cards that I've made off screen using all of the different products from last month's particular kit. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back here again soon. But that's all from me. Bye for now.